Well, socialists in Washington voted, claiming to reduce inflation and rising costs by spending billions of dollars. They're essentially raising taxes on American citizens during a recession. In another partisan power play, Marxists, Democrat progressives, and useful idiots came together to give even more power to the federal government and the IRS. What could go wrong? So, what do you think they're going to do with so much more power? I'm David Fiorazzo, and this is Christ and Culture. Once again, VP Kamala Harris cast the tie-breaking vote, and that always spells bad news for most Americans. The, quote, Inflation Reduction Act was passed to the applause of big government spending advocates, and one of the concerns about the bill is the effect it will have on low and middle income Americans. A more appropriate title for this thing is the Inflation Enhancement Plan. First, as $80 billion will be allocated to the IRS, we can expect audits to increase. Now, for some reason, liberals and progressives aren't that concerned about being audited. I don't know why. But anyway, they're also putting more money into fighting climate change, of course, in addition to unleashing an army of IRS foot soldiers. According to the Daily Signal, the Democrats' 755-page bill increases green energy subsidies, expands the IRS, and enacts other initiatives long sought by the left, and authorizes $430 billion in new spending. That's supposed to be offset by $740 billion in new revenues from tax hikes and increased enforcement that includes the hiring of 87,000 additional IRS agents to conduct audits and seek tax liens. Now, patting himself on the back, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer boasted that the bill is, quote, one of the defining legislative feats of the 21st century. He actually said that. He also claimed the bill reduces inflation, lowers costs, creates millions of good-paying jobs, and is the boldest climate package in history. It even does your laundry and washes your car, gets your groceries. An overwhelming majority of American families, by the way, could care less about a bold climate package, especially one costing us hundreds of billions of dollars. You know, it really boggles our minds why so few lefties in D.C. ever ask the question, who's going to pay for all this? And is this absolutely necessary? Experts suggest the spending bill is a scaled-down version of big government Biden's signature Build Back Better globalist plan. And this version includes Obamacare premium supports. Now, some warn this legislation would make the IRS larger than the Pentagon, State Department, FBI, and Border Patrol combined. But a primary concern is the IRS is beefing up to come after more of us, you and me. That's right. Expecting the Biden IRS to target Christians and conservatives, the Washington Stand put it this way, quote, just last week, 40 House Democrats sent a letter to the IRS commissioner asking them to look into Family Research Council's nonprofit status because they don't like our politics. These kinds of misinformation-fueled investigations of conservative groups and of conservative individuals causes a lot of concern, end quote. Now, these socialist policies are part of an agenda that includes discrimination and double standards, helping our culture slide further into delusion, rebellion, and godlessness. As I reported back in 2015, the Obama-Biden Justice Department used the IRS as a bully pulpit to punish their political opposition. They did this. They denied nonprofit status to various Christian and conservative groups prior to the 2012 presidential election, which of course helped Barack Obama. Now, how do you think the left will use the IRS after they've added even more agents and resources and muscle? Be reminded about the alleged computer crashes at the IRS during the Obama-Biden Lois Lerner regime, causing employees there to somehow lose their internal emails. IRS employees were under federal investigation in a case involving the targeting of conservatives. That's right. At that time, I reported on this, and I said more than 20 IRS employees conveniently had their computers crash, which caused the suspicious deletion of or the loss of emails as well as hard drives. Apparently, only conservatives and Republicans in government agencies are required by law to back up their data on external hard drives. Former IRS Exempt Organizations Division Director Lois Lerner and IRS officials worked with Democrats to silence conservatives and used IRS intimidation tactics. It has been documented, you guys. The IRS placed, at that time, holds on the processing of hundreds of applications for tax-exempt status from organizations known to be conservative. There's proof. Think about how this impacts people voting and elections across the country. How? By limiting the ability of conservative or Republican groups to acquire nonprofit status and freely campaign and mobilize for a cause or candidate. The IRS monitored conservative groups and activities, their websites, and other publicly available information. Still not concerned about this administration weaponizing big government? Well, a key takeaway from previous IRS corruption is that 83% of the nonprofit groups they targeted in 2014 and flagged for IRS surveillance were conservative, 83%. Plus, American citizens who donated money at that time to Tea Party affiliated groups happened to be audited 10 times more than average Americans. Are you starting to understand what's going to happen even more here? Regarding audits, this is what we also learned about the Democrats in power. Out of all the groups the IRS selected for audit during that time, ready? 100% of them were conservative. That's right. So why do you think all of this is happening now? Is it to distract from the weaponization of the FBI and its unjustified raid on a former president, Donald Trump, in Mar-a-Lago, Florida? And of course it's political. Are they manufacturing a smokescreen leading up to the next health crisis, or maybe the midterm elections in November, perhaps? I think we're starting to catch on, friends. Does it seem like liberal Democrats and progressives in power are above the law? Yes, because they are. One of my favorite thinkers in our time is Professor Victor Davis Hanson of the Hoover Institution. He recently spoke about Democrat hubris, saying this: they're afraid in the short term, but long term, they believe they're morally superior to America, and therefore any means necessary or justifiable for their morally superior ends. Right now, we don't have the rule of law in Washington. Whether you're targeted or exempt depends on your ideology, end quote. Whether or not you're targeted depends on your ideology. We've seen that. There's proof. This, my friends, this is communist policy. This is the epitome of calling evil good and good evil, while those who reject God and truth think that we're evil and they are morally superior. Let that sink in. God bless you, and keep speaking the truth about things that matter.